Hi, I'm Chris, and I'm a user experience designer at an agency called IdeaBase, which is part of Kent State University, and I also blog on my personal website at chrishallahan.com. Today I wanted to share with you 5 features of Craft CMS that we use to launch our latest website project. If you haven't heard of Craft CMS, you can check it out at craftcms.com. I always say that Craft is the simplicity and ease of use of WordPress with the flexibility and content focus of Drupal. If you look at the pricing section, Craft starts as a free license for personal use and goes up to $299 for its pro license. The site I'm talking about today is called Reading Buzz. Reading Buzz is a blog and video platform for school librarians and their teachers to share with their grade school students. It has some blog plans and about pages, and it actually looks pretty simple, but it's pulling in lots of complex data together to actually form the pages and make it easy for the end user to navigate, but just as simple for the client to edit as well. I worked with a group of talented designers, developers, and content strategists to launch this project. I want to show you 5 features of Craft CMS that we use to develop this platform. First, I'm going to talk about blogging and section types. Blogs, like most entry types, aren't built into Craft by default. Everything's built from scratch. But the cool thing is that it's really easy to add new content types and use only the fields that you actually need, as opposed to going with an out-of-the-box solution. Then you can relate those posts together really easily using category fields in Craft. So first what we did was define the blog post section type, and then we made it into a channel because these are multiple entries that need to be grouped together. Then we're able to customize things like the URL using some variables and connect it to the template file on the back end that it's going to use to actually display those posts in the browser. Once you've done that, you can go in and connect some fields to the blog post. If we look at some of the fields that I already created here, we're using a short and long description field, an author field, featured image, blog post content, which is a matrix field that I'll talk about later, and then 2 different category fields that are used to filter and also relate the posts together. Now all I do is simply go into my code editor and start creating my entry template. I'll call this entry.html. You can then enter any fields and structure them in whatever semantic HTML way you'd like. I use some sections, some divs, some headings that you can see here, and it's really simple to read as a developer. I can see all those fields in context of my code. Now from an editor's point of view, I can go into entries and then blog posts and either create a new one, or I'm going to edit an existing one as an example. I'm using both the short and long description fields so that I can use the short teaser on my carousel on the home page, but the longer one for things like the metadata for the page and also on the blog listing page itself. I also wanted to point out the blog post content field. Like I said before, with Craft's matrix field, we can define multiple blocks that live within a single field and then mix them together in different ways. So in this case, I'm using some text, an image, some more text, and then a pull quote at the end. And I can take those fields and arrange them and move them around as I'd like, or keep adding additional blocks within that main blog post content field. And then of course, after that we have the grade levels and themes, which are both category fields, and Craft makes it really simple to either select additional categories or add brand new categories right in line if they'd like to. This is really nice for editing. However, it is a little abstract as to how this blog post is going to turn out in the end. So that brings me to my second favorite feature of Craft, which is Live Preview. What Live Preview lets the client do is select a button and see everything that's going on in this article live. So you can see if I go down and start to edit the text, it's live updating right on the page so that the client can see their edits and how they'll look in context. And you can also take the center of this window here if you're savvy enough and see different viewport sizes as well. And so you can see how this page is actually coming together. Maybe I decide that I don't want the image to be in the center of the text anymore. I can just simply move that image to the bottom and I get some instant feedback again showing what will happen when this is actually published. And I can continue editing or save. Nothing will take effect until I actually hit the save button. So we have these blog posts, but we also have a similar entry on this site in structure, at least called videos. So the cool thing is that since videos are structured very similarly to blog posts and reuse a lot of the fields, I can use those same fields from the blog post. I don't have to recreate them and every time and clutter my CMS with a lot of extraneous fields. So if the fields are exactly the same, I can pull them into an additional entry type and reuse them over again. Another feature I wanted to talk about is search optimization. On my first craft site, I was going in and manually creating a bunch of metadata fields for search optimization and things like social media, and it got to be a hassle. So I went out and found this plugin, which is made by NY Studio 107, and it's called SEOmatic. And it's a free plugin for Craft that will basically generate a lot of the common SEO metadata for you, and it integrates directly into Craft's backend without a lot of template and field manipulation. So if I go into SEOmatic, which I renamed to SEO in the sidebar, I can go in and define some basic metadata on a template basis, on a site-wide basis, or even on a per entry basis. And it's going to create all the metadata for Twitter, Facebook, as well as some of the structured data that Google likes to see, like JSON, LD, microdata, based on the things that I've plugged in here. And I really didn't have to do anything except set up the plugin and enter some of that data. And after I do that, I go into my backend master template, which in this case is called layout.html, and put in the SEOmatic hook tag, which will then automatically generate all of those tags in the head automatically. So I think that's a really awesome plugin, and I'm happy to have it as part of Craft. It really makes my life easier, and I really trust the plugin creator's expertise over rolling my own SEO every time. So that's number 3, the SEOmatic plugin. Number 4 is image cropping. So this is available in most content management systems, but the flexibility here lets you do some really cool things with images when you're talking about responsive design. So whenever you go into the control panel, Craft lets you define different image crops, or they call them transforms, which you can set for any variation of the image on the site. So I can go in and create a large feature image and define some dimensions, the quality, and the format. And the nice thing is this is all transparent to the site editor, so as they're adding, let's say, a video thumbnail, they just go in and add a featured image without worrying about what crops are ultimately being applied. And as long as they choose an image that's large enough as the largest crop and hit save, Craft is going to take care of the rest. The thing that I liked is when I set a few transform sizes for the same image, in this case 3 different sizes, I can use the responsive image picture element to swap in and out different image sizes and crops based on the viewport of the user. So Craft made that really easy. If you look at the blog post template, I'm using the picture element here and defining some crop names that I defined earlier, the large, medium, and small feature image. And then using the picture element media queries, I can swap those in and out. So when I view one of my blog posts, you can see the large, medium, and small crop change out using the picture element, and that's all happening thanks to the transforms from Craft. So it's not specific to Craft, but the flexibility here lets me integrate responsive images very easily. Okay, so finally number 5, I'm calling this alternate displays of content. So the nice thing about Craft it's not just for creating plain HTML web pages. You can take the fields that you've defined and use that content in a variety of different ways. So one way I may want to display my content from my blog is as an RSS feed. And Craft makes that really simple because I can create any document type in my editor, in this case a .rss file, and then create a very simple RSS feed using all of the field types that I previously defined for my blog posts. And I could put in the full content if I wanted to as well. But you see here I'm using just a very simple for loop to loop through all of the blog entries and output them into that RSS feed that I can then consume in other media. Another thing, and this is one of my favorite features from this site, let's say the client wants to send out a weekly email newsletter to their customers, showing them all the latest blog posts and video content that they've just added to their Craft website. I can use Craft as an engine to define and then create those emails and send them out either through Craft or through a third party. And in this case, I'm going to use MailChimp. What we have here is a new section, channel type for email. I've gone ahead and defined some fields and also a new display template that's specific for emails and not web pages. And our client is going to send out two different types of email, a welcome email and also a newsletter, both with very similar formatting but a few different field variations. So with Craft, I can also define two different entry types related to email and use that exact same template for both of those email types. So I went in and defined my fields for my newsletter email, which you can actually see in use in the entry screen. And the client will just go in and click on email and create their new email. And as I'm creating that new email, I can use Live Preview that you saw earlier and see my email template in action that I've already marked up in HTML as I'm adding my content. If you want to see that in the back end, it looks like this. So there's a new email layout template that's specific to email, and you can see my markup, which is of course in tables. And in between those tables, I'm just using those fields that I've defined in my email entry type. As I'm creating this email, I can go ahead and create the subject as the title, the description, the email headline, and you can see it's building that email right on the right side in my live preview. And I'm also going to define some message content and also the author of the email. The cool thing here is that Craft offers what's called entry fields. So since I've already created some video and blog post entries that I want to call out in this email, I don't have to retype those entries and pull in the thumbnail, etc., and add those all over again. I can just go in and select some existing posts that I want. Why create them again just because I'm in an email now? I've already done that work. So I can go ahead and define those. It's creating the thumbnails using transforms and also linking out to those individual entries themselves right from the email. And I can do the same thing with the weekly tips section that I've defined here as well. And so in like 3 minutes, I've plugged in all this existing email content using things I've already created. And now I can just go ahead and save that, and I have my entire email already created with all the formatting, styling that I'm going to need. And you'll remember that I have multiple email types, so if I wanted to, I could easily swap to my welcome email format as well. And once I've created, in this case, a newsletter, because the client wanted some advanced functionality for sending out their emails, I've used MailChimp as my third-party service. Now the cool thing about MailChimp, you can create a campaign, and of course you could use MailChimp's predefined templates and build the email right in MailChimp, but I've already created my email outside of MailChimp. So I can click on the code your own and then import URL, and then just find the URL that Craft has created publicly, and I'm going to copy and paste that URL in here. I'm going to find the one email I've created from June 15th, and go back into my campaign builder and paste that in. What happens when I click import, it's going to grab all of the HTML, images, everything, and place them directly into MailChimp. So my email is basically now created in MailChimp, and I'm ready to send it out to my subscribers. So Craft has saved me both as the developer some time as well as the client a lot of time here, just by allowing content to be easily created and then use that content in a variety of ways beyond just the web. By the way, if I go ahead and log in as the client, they get a very simplified view. I'm not showing them all the SEO, image transforms, etc. They can just really focus on entering their content in their project. They don't have to know how this is all working in the background. And of course, it's a great experience for people using the site on the front end as well. I think a well-built CMS creates a really good experience for the users who are consuming the site because it ensures that the site's going to be updated and easy to follow for those users as well. So that's my screencast on using Craft CMS to define an intuitive website on both the front end and the back end. If you have questions for me, please reach out. My email is chris@chrishallahan.com, and thanks for listening.